The chief of the dwarves stayed at the northern side of the Dwarven Village. My, what rare visitors, humans and elves together. What brings you to the dwarf mines? The chief said, with a slight tone of sarcasm. Chief of the dwarves, we have come to ask a favor of you, Kirkis said. A proud elf asking a dwarf for a favor? The chief replied in a sarcastic tone again. Chief, I am sure you are familiar with the burning mirror. Valeria took over the conversation with the dwarf. Kwanda Rosman has gotten hold of the mirror's blueprints, and he plans to burn down the forest. The animosity between the elves and dwarves ran deep. Besides, the dwarven chief was not convinced that humans would be able to steal the blueprints from them. Prove to me you humans are capable of breaking into our vault and stealing our blueprints, the chief said. The dwarven chief wanted the team to steal the blueprints of the flowing water cane from their heavily guarded vault north of the village, so that he would believe that humans could get hold of the burning mirror. The mission was decided, and the team would travel north to the Dwarven Vault. The air was thick with the scent of ancient stone and molten metal as Gameon led his squad through the shadowed tunnels of the Dwarven Vault. The young hero's torch cast flickering light across the hewn walls, illuminating intricate carvings of axes and anvils. Behind him, Gremio's steady hand rested on his axe, his eyes scanning for danger. Valeria, her blade gleaming, walked with a warrior's poise, while Kirkis, the elf, notched an arrow, his senses attuned to the faintest sound. Kai, the martial, arts master, moved with silent grace, and Viktor, grinning broadly, hefted his greatsword, eager for a fight. The flowing water cane blueprints lay deep within this labyrinth. But the dwarves guarded their treasures fiercely, and the vault was no place for the faint of heart. A low rumble echoed ahead, and the squad froze. From the shadows charged a trio of wild boars, their tusks gleaming like daggers. "Scatter!" Viktor roared, swinging his blade in a wide arc. The first boar squealed as the sword bit into its flank, but the others barreled forward. Kirkis loosed an arrow, felling one mid-charge while Kai's fists blurred, striking vital points to drop the third. Gremio shielded Gameon, his axe ready, but the threat passed as quickly as it came. "Boars in a vault?" Valeria muttered, wiping her blade. "What's next?" Her answer came as they rounded a corner into a vast chamber. Gears whirred, and a metallic clank reverberated. Two robotic death machines, hulking constructs of steel and steam, lurched forward, their eyes glowing red. Blades spun on their arms, and pistons hissed with lethal intent. "Stay sharp!" Kai shouted, dodging a whirling blade. He struck. The machine's joints, but his fists barely dented the armor. Valeria and Viktor teamed up, her precise strikes distracting one construct while Viktor's brute force cracked its plating. Gameon, heart pounding, called on his Soul Eater rune. Dark energy surged, lashing the second machine and slowing its advance. Kirkis fired arrows at its glowing eyes, blinding it, while Gremio hacked at its legs, toppling it with a crash. Panting, the squad pressed on, the blueprints promised driving them deeper. But the dwarves were not done. At the vault's heart, a cavern lit by molten rivers, stood a dozen dwarven guards, their axes gleaming. Their leader, a grizzled warrior with a braided beard, stepped forward. "Thieves!" he bellowed. "You'll not touch our treasures!" Battle erupted. Valeria parried an axe, her sword dancing, while Kirkis's arrows found gaps in dwarven armor. Kai weaved through the fray, disarming foes with pinpoint strikes. Viktor laughed as he clashed with two guards, his strength overwhelming. Gremio stayed at Gameon's side, deflecting blows, his loyalty unwavering. Gameon faced the leader, dodging a crushing swing. "We don't want to fight," he shouted, but the dwarf charged. Gameon's rune flared again, shadows coiling around. The dwarf, sapping his strength. With a final strike, Gameon disarmed him, the axe clattering to the ground. "Yield," Gameon said, breathless. The dwarf, seeing his men falter, growled but lowered his head. The Dwarven Vault's tunnels twisted like a labyrinth, and Gameon's squad soon faced a massive door blocking their path. A tablet laid in front of the door, carved with a cryptic hint. "A puzzle," Kirkis murmured, tracing the glowing symbols. Valeria spotted 2 nearby buttons. "Wait," Gameon said, noticing patterns in the carvings. "Left, right, left, followed by left, right, tried it," he said as Valeria pressed the buttons in that order, and the door rumbled open. Deeper, in the Dwarven Vault, the air grew heavy, the walls trembling with a primal roar. Gameon's squad entered an open area, with a door leading to where their destination seemingly was. Guarding it was the Gigantes, a colossal beast, 2 faces and 4 arms, its stone-like hide studded with glowing crystals, its 4 arms wielding massive clubs. Its eyes burned with fury, and the ground shook as it bellowed. "None shall steal the dwarves' treasure." "Spread out," Gameon shouted, clutching his staff, the Soul Eater rune pulsing darkly. The Gigantes swung a club, shattering stone where Viktor had stood moments before. "Big guy, huh? I fought worse." Viktor grinned, charging with his great sword. His blade sparked against the creature's hide, barely scratching it. Valeria darted in, her sword slashing at the beast's legs, but the Gigantes kicked, forcing her to roll away. Kirkis notched an arrow, aiming for the glowing crystals, but the monster's arm deflected the shot, sending it clattering into the lava. "Those crystals," Kai called, weaving through the fray with martial precision. He leaped, striking a crystal on the Gigante's shoulder. It cracked, and the beast roared, its movement slowing slightly. "That's the key," Gameon realized, rallying his team. He unleashed a wave of dark energy from his rune, shadows coiling around the Gigantes, weakening its defenses. Gremio, ever loyal, stayed at Gaemon's side, his axe deflecting falling debris as the cavern quaked. "Stay focused, young master," he urged. The Gigantes retaliated, slamming 2 clubs into the ground, sending shockwaves that knocked Kirkis and Valeria off their feet. "We need to end this!" Valeria yelled, scrambling up. She and Viktor coordinated, her precise strikes distracting the beast while Viktor hacked at another crystal. The second crystal shattered, and the Gigantes staggered, its hide cracking, like fractured stone. Kirkis, back on his feet, fired a volley of arrows, one striking a 3rd crystal on the beast's chest. Kai followed, vaulting onto the Gigante's arm and smashing the crystal with a focused strike. The monster howled, its strength waning, but it swung wildly, nearly crushing Kai. Gameon stepped forward, his rune flaring brighter. "Together!" he shouted, channeling the Soul Eater's full power. A torrent of dark energy engulfed the Gigantes, targeting the final crystal on its forehead. The squad attacked in unison, Viktor's sword, Valeria's blade, Kai's fists, Kirkis's arrows, and Gremio's axe all struck true. The final crystal shattered, and the Gigantes let out a deafening wail, its body crumbling into rubble. The cavern stilled, the blueprint unguarded at last. With the Gigantes defeated, the path to the blueprints was cleared. The group used an escape talisman to quickly exit the vault and return to the village. Back at the village, the Dwarven Chief could not believe his eyes. "You actually managed to break into our vault. Fine then, I will believe your story. The burning mirror is a devastating weapon, but it can be shattered in an instant if you use another of our treasures, the Firewind Cannon. I will have one built for you immediately," the chief said. With the mission completed, the Dwarven Chief honored his words. With the Dwarven Chief's support, Kirkis urged the team to return to the Elven Village to deliver the news to the Elder. The dwarf trail wound through jagged cliffs and ancient pines, its rocky path crunching beneath the boots of Gameon and his squad. Fresh from their triumph in the Dwarven Vault, the group moved with purpose toward the Elven Village. Gameon led, his staff gripped tightly, the weight of their mission pressing on him. Gremio stayed close, his axe at the ready, eyes scanning the shadows. Valeria's blade gleamed in the fading light, her step steady, while Kirkis, the elf, moved with a quiet urgency, sensing the forest's unease. Kai's silent grace belied his readiness, and Viktor's greatsword swayed with his confident stride. As they crested a ridge, a crimson glow stained the horizon. The Elven Village, nestled in the forest's heart, was engulfed in flames. Towering trees, once vibrant, burned like torches, their branches collapsing in showers of sparks. Smoke billowed, choking the sky, and the air carried the acrid stench of destruction. "Wait, is that smoke?" Kirkis froze, his bow trembling in his hands, his home reduced to an inferno. "It is coming from the village of the elves. We are too late," Valeria said as she felt defeated. "No, that is impossible! Commander Gameon, let's hurry," Kirkis said. Gameon's heart sank, their centriumph overshadowed by the devastation before them. The squad stood in stunned silence, the crackle of flames filling the void, their resolve tested as they faced the wreckage of their allies' sanctuary. "All our efforts," Valeria said with sorrow. "That is right. They were in vain." "Everything we did was in vain." "But why? Why? Please tell me, Commander Gameon, what was the point of it all?" Kirkis said, devastated by the sight. "We did everything. We could. We were ridiculed and mocked, but still we didn't lose heart. And yet..." Yet nothing. Nothing remains. Everything I tried to protect is gone. Kirkis continued. He had prepared a ring. a symbol of love for Sylvina, but he lost everything: his home and his loved ones. Kirkis, this ring is your hope. You must never lose hope. All it takes is a little hope for us to keep going. Same goes for both human and elves. Gremio picked up the ring which Kirkis dropped. Young master, let's return to the castle. We must never allow a tragedy like this to be repeated. We must defeat Kwanda Rosman's army and destroy the burning mirror, Gremio said. Before the team returned to the castle, they met a young cartographer called Templeton. He would join the Liberation Army, and with his help, the group would finally have the map of the Scarlet Moon Empire. The glow of the burning Elven Village lingered in the squad's minds as Gameon led them towards the great forest, the air heavy with smoke and sorrow. The path led them toward the Kobold Village, its wooden huts and earthy scents a stark contrast to the smoldering ruins behind. The kobolds' homes nestled among gnarled trees, their lanterns casting a warm glow. But peace shattered as shadows stirred in the underbrush. Kuromimi suddenly emerged. "Kuromimi can't get caught here, must help everyone," he said. Imperial soldiers clad in scarlet and steel burst from the trees, their swords drawn and eyes gleaming with malice. The ambush was swift, encircling Gameon's squad before they could react. Archers notched arrows from the tree line, and foot soldiers advanced, their armor clanking in the dusk. Valeria stepped forward, her movements deliberate, signaling surrender to protect the group. "Hey, you there! If I turn myself in, will you promise to not hurt the others?" Valeria said. The Imperial soldiers agreed. "The burning mirror has to be destroyed. Who will do it if we all die here? The Liberation Army must not lose its leader. Not now. It is your duty as their leader to stay alive." "That is why," Valeria said. "Stop, Valeria." Gameon opposed to her idea. "You know, Gameon, you have still got a lot to learn. You must not lose sight of the greater good." Valeria continued as she dropped her weapon and surrendered herself to the Imperial soldiers. However, the Imperial soldiers broke their promise. Gameon gripped his staff, the Soul Eater rune pulsing faintly as Gremio raised his axe, shielding him. Kirkis aimed his bow, Kai crouched in a fighting stance, and Viktor grinned defiantly, ready to carve a path. Kuromimi joined the fight. His loyalty to the forest and its people drove him to Gameon's side, his presence a rallying force. The kobold's agility matched Kai's, weaving through soldiers with slashing strikes, his growls echoing. Gameon's squad fought with renewed vigor. Kirkis's arrows struck true, felling archers. Kai's fists shattered shields, and Viktor's greatsword cleaved a path, his laughter rising above the clash. But the Imperials were relentless, their numbers swelling as reinforcements poured from the forest. Swords clashed, arrows rained, and the ground grew slick with battle's toll. The squad formed a tight circle, backs to each other, their breath ragged as the Imperials tightened their net. Hope flickered as a horn sounded, sharp and clear, cutting through the chaos. Mathiu, the Liberation Army's strategist, emerged from the trees leading a wave of reinforcements. Archers and spearmen, banners high, crashed into the Imperial flank. The Imperials faltered and scattered. "Sir Mathiu, how did you get here? The only way is through that forest." Gremio was happy to see Mathiu, but was also puzzled how he managed to get through the forest, which needed an elven guide to navigate. Sylvina and Stallion emerged from the Liberation Army. She was the one who guided Mathiu and the army through the forest, and Stallion was the one who saved her from the burning mirror. "Here is the ring. I guess we should never abandon hope," Gremio said as he handed the ring to Kirkis. However, there was no time for a proper celebration, as Mathiu said that the Liberation Army had enough forces to face Kwanda Rosman after Humphrey and Sanchez arrived at the castle with reinforcements. Mathiu thought that they should launch the attack immediately, and that was what they did. This marks the end of the episode. If you enjoyed it, please give a like and subscribe for more. Thanks, and see you in the next one!